Partners for Education at Berea College is focused on the result that all Appalachian students succeed. So as a higher education institution, we are partnering with public school districts throughout Appalachian Kentucky, with community partners, with the faith-based community, and all of our partnership, all of our work revolves around all Appalachian students succeed. Now, I have to step back and say that we have defined success as students achieving a 2 or 4 year degree. That was a tough decision to determine how we were going to define as an institution, as an organization, success. So we looked at data, we looked at research, and what we found is that young people and adults who have a 2 or 4 year degree have better health outcomes. Of course, their earning potential over their lifetime is higher. There are even studies that are talking about they're more fulfilled and they're more happy with their lives. And life expectancy is significantly greater for those who have a 2 or 4 year degree. So once we looked at that data, it was clear that success is a 2 or 4 year degree. We do hope and we know that with that success, they'll go on to a career that enables them to achieve a living wage to support themselves and their families. We also hope that success can be found in their place in Appalachia. So our work is really supporting the schools and the difficult work they do, the community partners and their work to ensure all Appalachian students succeed.
I don't know if you've seen this, Dreama, but there was an interesting research done. I think it's the Fordham Institute. And they looked at, and the percent was alarming, or when I say alarming, was very high. 80% of all adults live within 50 miles of their home. And one of the things I tell people when I look at that research is if we can develop a reason for students to stay and they can have livable wage and high wage opportunities, the data tells me they will. And so when we're trying to transform our communities, we can do that and students will stay if we can create those types of opportunities. And so it's just interesting when I look at it like that, because I think a lot of your work, if I'm understanding it right, you have to transform these communities as well.
Yeah, and I think we do recognize that for all kids to succeed, especially here in Appalachia, you have to transform communities. You have to create a connection between the public school and the local labor market. You also then have to work with young people and their families early on. So we start our work elementary school, middle school, to start having kids think about career and what careers and what jobs interest them, what they think would be fulfilling and exciting for them as a career path. And then once they start thinking about that, then we work with them on seeing, well, what is the educational requirements for that career? What could your educational pathway be? I often think we put the cart before the horse when we talk about college all the time, right? But college is just a stepping stone to a fulfilling career. And so we really try to start early on working with young people around career. We also work with young people to talk to them about where they want to live and what they want to do. Because if I do my work here in rural Appalachia, and if a young person really wants to be someone who is working in the fashion industry or the magazine industry or those kind of things, they might have to leave Appalachia to do that work. But if really they have lots of career interests, but their primary interest is they want to stay home and they want to stay in their place, then we need to be able to provide them the data to show them what careers are available in their place and what the pathways to those careers would be.
Yeah, one of the things too, and I know you probably will not appreciate me asking this, but I think it's really important, Dreama, for people that we're sharing this with, to talk a little bit about the success you've had in funding. I just think it's so powerful because you've been able to piece together the funding in a continuum that I think supports the overall goal and not get lost, right? Sometimes funding takes us too far away, and I think you've found a way to keep that really focused. But maybe talk just for a minute about how you've set your work at Berea Partners up through your funding.
And so with holding the result, all Appalachian students succeed in the center of all we do, it also drives the type of funding we seek and the type of funding we bring in. I'll be honest with you, several years ago, I could get infatuated with the funding stream and go write a grant or talk to a funder and bring in dollars to do something. But that something wasn't directly connected to our strategies of how we believe we can support the success of Appalachian students. So really clarifying for ourselves internally that the goal is to bring in dollars that support our strategies. And we have 4 primary strategies. We believe you have to lift educational aspirations, build academic skills, connect college and career, and engage families. If you do those 4 things well, then a student will be prepared and have an avenue to success. So what we do now is we continually look for funding streams, and we look for federal funding streams, private funding streams. If they fit those strategies and the outcomes we're seeking, we apply for those. So we've scaled up our work. We're now working in 31 counties of Appalachian, Kentucky, 47 school districts, serving more than 50,000 young people. We've got 500 people on the ground working and serving in Appalachia, providing interventions to students, starting with home visiting, starting with cradle, going all the way up to post-secondary enrollment and post-secondary success.
That's terrific. Well, thank you. And I obviously the cradle to career model, I think, is just really, really important. And as we look at this, maybe Dreama, you could talk about, since you are an outside entity providing the support to these school districts and the people on the ground, maybe talk about how you develop the partnerships, and not only partnerships like with the high schools and the colleges and those entities, but also maybe how do you engage the families in that process, in that partnership as well?
Yeah, I think what we have realized is that to achieve this aspirational result, we have to partner with multiple stakeholders, and we have to partner with multiple sectors. So when I think about the partnerships that we have that are vital and critical, the first partnership is with family. We really have to engage family members. They're the first teacher and the most important teacher of children. And I think that it's interesting across the country. We understand that in early childhood, we understand that in elementary school, but we struggle on how to continue to engage family as kids reach middle school, high school, and even enter into college. So it's developing a strategy to bring parents along as educational advocates and to create in them those aspirations for their students' success and give them the tools they need to be successful. So our family work is core. Second to that is the relationship with school districts. The school districts are critical. What we have found as a separate entity working with school districts, it really is developing a shared understanding that we're in this for the success of students, working with them to look at what we're doing as strategies, what they're doing as strategies, and figure out where the alignment can occur. And then entering into really strong MOUs, memorandums of understanding, that really say, this is what Berea will do, and this is what the school district will do. It also involves sharing of resources. So what we realize in working with school districts is they often don't have the time to go out and find the funding to bring in to do essential work. And so we will go out, we'll find the funding, we'll bring it in and flow it through the school districts, which enable the schools to hire staff and hire people to do and support the work. So school districts are critical. We also look at other sectors. We know kids will not be successful if they're hungry, if they're homeless. So how do we assist school districts in partnering with the local providers of those services and really developing a strategy to ensure that kids are safe, healthy, and supported? And along the same lines, our workforce partners are critical. We have to be aware of what the labor market is looking like, and the labor market has to be aware of what we're teaching in the schools and what our schools are teaching. And so it, again, is helping to develop cross-sector, multi-sector partnerships. They all align around this result that all kids will be successful, and they all develop shared strategies to pull together for what's best for the kids.
This might have been a question we should have asked at the beginning, but Dreama, tell me how long Bria Partners has been doing this, and the follow-up to that is maybe talk a little bit about some of the successes you've been able to see so far, and what that is starting to look like.
So Partners for Education started, gosh, I've been doing this for 23 years now. And when we started this work, we started out with a partnership with one school district. So Rockcastle County, Kentucky and Berea College Partners for Education worked together to really think about how do we ensure all Rockcastle County kids were successful. Through that work, we realized that the model could be expanded. So we expanded it to 6 counties, and then we went to 15. So now we're at a point 23 years later where we're working with 31 counties and all the school districts in those counties. So it has scaled up over time. And I always tell folks that are thinking about this, you have to start small, you have to test out the model, and then you have to think about how you can replicate and scale up the work. That's a critical piece, I think, of that work. And I may have missed a part of your question.
No, the second part of it, I love what you said, start off small. I mean, the whole design of an early college high school is by definition to be small, to grow your offerings and your pathways, but it is meant to be intentionally small, to where you can provide that robust student support throughout the program. But the second part of the question was, what type of success have you seen? Or are you guys at that point to where you could start to measure the effectiveness, and maybe talk a little bit about what has worked and maybe one or two things that you said, wow, that didn't work at all?
Yeah. And so we have seen success, and we continue to see success cradle to career. So one of the things that we did that really has helped us show our success is we have some specific indicators that we track, and we track these annually. So we look, for example, on kindergarten readiness, because we know that we want to have more kids entering kindergarten ready to learn. So we get that data on an annual basis. We look at English language arts, reading and math scores, and we look at those annually, especially at 3rd grade and 8th grade, to see is the number of 3rd and 8th graders proficient increasing each year. We also then look at graduation rates at college and career readiness levels and college attendance rates. So we do have these metrics that we track across all of our communities to see, are we making a difference? And what we have seen is that these interventions do work. In one community, for example, with kindergarten readiness, over the course of 3 years, that community went from 16% being K-ready to 40% being K-ready, a significant jump. And that happened because the community looked at their strategy, they looked at the kids, and they made sure that the right kids were getting the right services. And so that working together to ensure that every child, and looking at child level data, is critical. 3rd grade reading and math scores have increased across the board in our communities, especially those communities. We see significant increases in those places where we can go in deep, and we can work, again, looking at every student's reading level, starting at 1st, 2nd, and then 3rd grade, making sure that the right kids are getting tutoring, the right kids are getting interventions as they need it. So we're seeing those gains there too. And then high school graduation rates across the board have increased, as have the college going rates. So we have seen that this works. One community, I think, that really illustrates the whole of this is we have a partnership with Leslie County High School, very small, rural community school. One high school, multiple elementary schools. I think they have 5 elementary schools. And what we've seen since our work there is when we started working in Leslie County, their high school was ranked at the bottom of the state and the bottom 5% in Kentucky. Now they're in the top 10% in Kentucky. We've seen rates of reading and math proficiency across the board increase at Leslie County, and they're staying steady. So it wasn't just one-time jump. They're staying steady. The principal, I talked to him recently, their AP scores and their ACT scores were the highest they've ever seen. So this type of deep partnership between a community-based entity like Partners for Education, the community partners, and the school district can really be transformational for systems and for students.
Wow, that's I love the Leslie County example. That's just terrific. Anything as you guys have tried or looked at different models that you've seen that maybe in particular at the high school college level that you plan on developing further as you guys continue your work?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I think that are critical when we get to high school. And the first piece is the focus on attendance, particularly looking at chronic absenteeism rates and addressing and developing strategies and interventions for those students who are chronically absent. We use a model called Check and Connect. It's in the What Works Clearinghouse. It's a model that's proven effective. And really it's that you have an individual at the school that's looking at the attendance data on a regular basis, and that each young person has somebody that will call them and check in with them and connect with them if they're absent, and will help them remove the barriers to attendance, but also help them stay caught up when they do come back to school. So we're looking at that. That's one of our universal strategies, is using that to really drive down chronic absenteeism rates, particularly in the 9th grade, because that's where we see it being higher in our schools. The second is this idea of college and career navigators, that there needs to be someone in the school that's really honestly doing the work that a guidance counselor would be doing at a high school if a guidance counselor wasn't overworked with so much administrative and testing burden. So our college and career navigators work with students starting in the 9th grade to help them explore career interests, help them and their families start thinking about financing of college and educational pathways, and taking them to visit colleges, helping them to explore the local labor market. That college and career navigator is there for 4 years and works with students through high school graduation, and is the one that really holds in their interest in those students making a successful transition. We wish we could have college and career navigators in all schools, but again, it's expensive, right? And one of the things we've learned through the years is that it really is people that can connect to the students that make the difference. And how do we take the people in the school, help all the folks in the school, whether it's the bus driver or the cafeteria lady or, and the teachers, to all be thinking about what's best for these kids and how to support them in their journey through high school into adulthood.
Yeah, and I think you kind of said that at the beginning, that part of your work is aspirational.
Yes.
And I do believe that it's really critical that everyone sees themselves as an opportunity to impact that narrative. I think sometimes people forget you can have those conversations all the time if you have the right mindset, right? And
I think it's critical. And I really think, one of the big struggles that we continually face is we really do believe that every child can aspire to and enter and receive a 2 and 4 year degree. When we really start digging into this with communities and even community leaders, often the truth comes out that really there are leaders who think, well, not every child needs to go to college, right? We need, and when you start digging into that, what I have found when I dig into that is that they're worried about these low wage jobs, like the job at the nursing home or the job at the McDonald's. Who is going to do those jobs if all kids did achieve a 2 or 4 year degree? And, it's interesting, those same folks. So the way I've started dealing with it is when they say that, I'm saying, well, tell me about your kids and your grandchildren.
Right.
And when they talk about their kids and their grandkids, those kids are not just getting a college degree, they're usually getting a post-college degree. Right? And I think they have aspirations differently for their kids, different aspirations for their children than they do the children of the community. And if we can start having the same aspirations for all kids that we have for the kids in our lives, that's when we can transform communities. And to me, that's one of the real equity issues of today is how do we create communities and adults in communities and leaders in communities that have the same aspirations for all kids.
Yeah. I say all the time, it's good for everybody else except my kids, right?
Exactly.
Right. But I think that's incredibly well stated because that's how they think. And I've heard that a lot too. We need these are, and I think there's so many skill opportunities with a 2 year degree now. I think I just saw the other day through Georgetown research that a lot of the 2 year associate degrees were outpacing 4 year degrees on salary now. And so that's just a big benchmark to get a student there. And I think it's very valuable, right?
Yep.
Well, I don't, any final thoughts? I mean, obviously we look at the early college high school model as an opportunity to accelerate the learning by giving students and learners that have been underrepresented a chance to be successful in college. And the good news is the research on the model is very, very good. It's very effective in doing what it set out to be. But any thoughts that you'd like to share as you think about leadership in early college high schools?
I think early college high schools have the potential for really leveling the playing field for young people who have been at a disadvantage. When I think about, I'm the mom of 2 sons and one of them is in college. But I was able to provide, because I myself have a college degree, my husband has a college degree, we were able to provide a lot of guidance to our son and to give him opportunities of learning to supplement his regular, what he was doing in high school. He was ready for college. My second son will be ready for college. I think early college high school, if you really look and recruit those students who may be from the first in their family to even think about college, who may be low income, who may be in an underrepresented group or have significant barriers. I think of students facing homelessness, students that are in the foster care system. That early college high school experience can really prepare them to enter into college on a level playing field with other students. It really can be a huge movement to equity and leveling the playing field and providing opportunities for all students.